What's up, everybody? This is your man, DJ Square Knot, and you're tuned into my podcast, Square Knot Live, where we talk about music, real issues, meet great people, and get into fun and engaging topics. With that being said, let's get into it. All right, what's up, everybody? This is your man, DJ Square Knot, as I've said, and then as the intro has said. Today is going to be a very interesting topic, and the topic is going to be very interesting because, number one, we're talking about something that a lot of people don't want to talk about, or they kind of, get behind closed doors and we'll talk about, and it just makes for all kinds of interesting elements to form. So today topic definitely is going to hit on politics. Politics is going to be the surface of this particular one, and I got a few of my buddies here to help me out with and chime in on some things. I got DJ Big Duley out of H-Town. I got DJ Boogie out of Virginia. I got DJ Mike L out of Maryland, and I got DJ Rod Flash out of Philly. And of course, we may have some others that'll tune in. And I just want to say, for a Facebook fam that definitely tunes in to me on a regular basis, I want to apologize to you because I'm gonna put them on blast. Facebook is literally stopping my stream as it relates to me bringing this into you guys, so that you guys are able to be interactive with the conversation. So if they come up the studio, I'm still waiting for the studio to come up. I've tried multiple browsers and it's not doing it. So hopefully some people will complain to Facebook about that and go from there, because they've really gone overboard with this whole thing about streaming content and so on and so forth. This is not the music. This is a talk show. This is a podcast. Enough said on that. So we're going to get right into the first thing that I wanted to talk about, and just to get the opinions of my brothers here on the panel with me, I'll start it off like this, and that is yesterday I was driving. I was driving down in Fayetteville, and when I was in Fayetteville yesterday, I went, to see my aunt, to do something for her. I noticed that while I was driving down, headed towards Bragg Boulevard, and I'm driving, and I see all these signs. It says Trump Pence, Trump Pence, Trump Pence, Trump Pence. And then when you get to the next area, it said Biden Harris, Biden Harris, Biden Harris. Perfectly fine, with the exception of one thing that I saw continuously all the way down this whole area, on both sides of the street, in the center of the street, in the middle, or whatever. And that is that the Trump Pence signs untouched, all the Biden signs smashed, vandalized. And I was like, what is that about? What is that about? Because hey, unless I am missing something here, people have freedom of speech. And I thought that would fall under the guideline of freedom of speech as it relates to, if Trump signs is right here, you can literally put a Biden Harris sign right next to it. But what I'm seeing is, and this goes into the topic, the first part of the topic is friends in politics, where I've seen that during election time, people get a little bit more sensitive, and they shouldn't, in my opinion, because it's your opinion. So why would you take your sign? Why would you take the opponent? Obviously, you're not for the opponent, but why would you destroy their signs and have your signs up? Because that shows me that you're getting way below the belt. You're stepping into shallow waters with this particular deal. You know what I mean? You're not being a stand-up citizen by damaging someone else's campaign signs. So that I was like, wow. And it just was a constant all the way down Bragg Boulevard. And then when I was driving up here in Raleigh, I saw the same thing. So maybe I'm drawing a blank here. Maybe something's wrong. Maybe I'm just not seeing it right. But what do you guys think? DJ Boogie, what's up?
So I was gonna say something. I'm gonna be bluntly honest with you. When it comes to this campaign, a lot of it's really just because of Trump. Prior to this election, I've never seen the hate for a sign. We see things with politics in the past where Democrat, Republican, people hate, people argue their sides, fight, and that's usually the end of it. But when it comes to physical things or actual doing something, I've never seen it until this election where it's become this bad. And a lot of it comes from the rhetoric from our current leadership. And if his rhetoric wasn't that, I don't believe people would do that.
Right. I totally agree. I totally agree. I've said it from the first time, and he said this, and he said, I could walk down the middle of the street and shoot someone, and no one would say anything. Once he put that out there like that, that was the beginning of the division of this country. And if I'm wrong about that, you guys tell me. But
I mean, but you gotta look at Trump's past history.
oh yeah,
Trump has always been a divisive guy. He
no doubt.
for him, it's really mainly just about him and his family.
Yes.
I do believe he does have some mental issues. I mean, he says something one sentence and 5 sentences later he says something completely different, or one day versus the next day. I think he's influenced by people around him, and then he's also influenced because of his celebrity status.
Uh,
And I think sometimes he takes that to a like I feel like he's treating this whole presidency like it's a reality show. That's my personal take on it.
it's funny that you say that because I was just speaking to someone, oh, my cousin, and we got into a conversation about it. And in that conversation, we said the same exact thing. He has literally taken the United States, who has become the laughing stock of the world, and turned it into a reality TV show. And he continues to benefit from it because of the things that he does. And of course, his followers, they continue to allow him to get away with it instead of holding him accountable. And it just blows my mind. But yesterday, when I was driving down and I saw that, I was like, wow, wow. People have really, really got stooped that low and have decided that it was okay. And guess what? Here's the kicker. And I'm hoping I can get this to play for you, because I was watching CNN and Cuomo was on there and he was speaking to one of the past people that was part of the Trump campaign. Scaramucci. I'm
Scaramucci.
Scaramucci. He said himself something to the effect of, when he mentioned, he said, with Trump supporters, it's a lot of uneducated white people. And I was like, that's a yo, if you got, and that's coming from his base, and Trump has engaged this base. But when you say uneducated white people, what does that sound like? When I took that, maybe I took that wrong, but I was like, uneducated white people, what do they mean by that?
Well, I feel like they plumb dumb sometimes. If you watch some of the interviews or the comments that they say, I mean, it just makes you question. It's like, what kind of school education did you get growing up? If you really listen to the words that they say, some of it just doesn't make sense. But it's, I feel a lot of it has to do with the belief of what a person says. They're so stuck on what a guy is saying, they fail to look at the reality. That's like saying the sky is red. We all look up and say it's blue, but they saying no, it's red because he said so.
So I sat there and I said, you know what? I need to record this. And I recorded this because I don't want people saying that, oh, this is what Tim said. I'm like, nope, I'm going to play this, let you guys see it for yourself. And I was like, that way you guys can grab. And then the first thing that comes up is they don't say anything. Like even my cousin, she brought this to my attention. And I said, well, it could be that they were part of his campaign, but they just absolutely just hit the boiling point. They could have been saying no, 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 no the whole time. And we already know that from his own people who have said, we tell him no and he ignores it. So really nothing new to the fact of where he will go and what he will do. But when they finally get released of that, they get released, the reins are broken or whatever it is, or whatever he may have on him, or maybe he doesn't have anything on him, but are really tired, that they get out and it's like, you know what? It's time to just really tell the truth. Now, some people, I'm gonna put this out there as well. There are some people I don't believe, she probably has some truth or whatever, but when it comes to respect wise, I don't I don't like her style. And that's Omarosa. I don't really like her style. And you know what? So when any
She's
word,
an opportunist.
yeah, big time. Opportunist big time. Anything that comes out of her mouth, I just push it off to the dirt. I'm gonna be honest with you. That's just me. But when it comes to all these other people who are saying this stuff that have been part of his cabinet or his campaign, they can't all be lying because there's a constant message. If the message was different, that would be different. But there's a constant message that reigns supreme, and that message is he does not listen, and if you don't do what he says, he fires you. So
I
when
mean, think about it. He did that on The Apprentice.
oh yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, what was he known for? You're
That
fired.
that's exactly what I was getting ready to go to. I was like, we are living a modern day of The Apprentice at a very large scale. You know, you have to really think about and say, you know what, this is what it is. It's a
I mean,
reality TV
look at his
show.
latest act. The man said he got COVID. The next day, he goes and does his own parade.
Mm-hmm.
3 days later, he checks himself out the hospital.
Yes.
Few days after that, he's doing a campaign and
Yeah.
says he's cured. How are you the only person in the
In the
entire world
world.
that's in the entire world that's cured in less than a week?
Yes. And I'm gonna be
And
honest.
all his followers fell for it.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's what I said. I'm sympathetic to, everyone who has dealt with it, including my own family who has dealt with it, my wife's family who's dealt with it. So I am very sympathetic to the whole thing of COVID, period. Because I know the damage and the destruction that this particular virus can bring to anyone. But when you have someone who actually takes this and uses this to reach his base. And think about it now. What Scaramucci said. This kind of goes into play with what he did, and people believe in it. You get what I'm saying? The uneducated individual who supports him, sure, he has a huge base, white base, but there's a few of us sprinkled out in there as well. Although I
I
think
got a few of them on my page on Facebook.
although I think they're getting paid, some of them, especially the ones at the rally. Because remember, he fired what were the two ladies' name? God, they would go with him to every campaign, but when they wanted to stop paying him, and it got out that they were getting paid $1,000 per
Oh,
campaign.
you talking about them dumb sisters?
Yeah, it makes absolutely no sense to me about what's in the mind. Now, as it relates to some of the things that he has brought forth and some of the things that he's talked about, sure, his beliefs, whatever he wants to do, but the fact remains there's a couple things that I want people to understand. Let's roll back to President Obama, because one of the things that I find out a lot of people, when I ask Republicans, what has Trump done for you? What has Trump done for the country? They can never give me a straight answer. They always say, well, Biden back in 1994 did the acts that now all African Americans are in jail. So I said, okay, let me
Let me stop you on that note
okay.
real quick. He did not. The reason why blacks were put in jail was not because of the crime bill. If you actually look at
Crime bill.
the crime statistic charts, the crime statistic charts were already on an uprising. We also got to
Exactly.
remember the time and era that we were living in. We were just coming out of, we were 20 years just out of segregation. So it's not really that young. I mean, not in 20 years, but yeah, close to 20 years, a little over 20 years. I mean, people still have fresh on their minds. There's still a lot of hate in the world.
Mm-hmm.
People are already the same thing we were dealing with now, but on a lawful scale.
Right.
People forget why police force was created in the first place. The culture of police has just like as black people, we dealt with things currently that date back to slavery.
Mm-hmm.
The police force has the same culture. And until you decide to change that culture, nothing will change. And the crime bill was due to a lot of crime that was going on from not just our people, from everybody. But, if we're already hated, people are going to target us. And we were just targeted.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying it wasn't needed at the time, because we all know in the 80s, crime was ridiculous, especially in New York.
Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
And both Democrats and Republicans backed that bill. The Congressional Black Caucus also backed that bill.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody backed that bill.
But
I
they
wouldn't
they
say
they
that
make it a
I wouldn't
point.
say the bill was the problem. I would say how it was used is the problem.
Hmm. And they brought up, of course, with the crime bill, the three strikes law and all of that came into play. And one of the things that they automatically would say is he was Joe. I was like, no, 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 no. I made it very clear. I said he didn't create that bill. He was just part of it. And I said, and it was both sides. And they will stick. I've asked a ton of Republicans, and I said, but here's the thing that still remains. You did not answer my question. What has Trump done that makes you believe that he is all grits and gravy? And they can't do it. Just like for example, the whole there was a news, I think it was a Washington Post or somebody, and you got an open out interview and people are watching it. Hey, and it's a live video. She walks up to a young fella who's wearing a MAGA hat, right? She says, so I see that you support Trump. So just give me some things that you really support Trump on. And he stood there and he was like, I just really don't know. I just support him. Sure. Again, you have the right and the freedom of choice, the whole deal. But the thing that I always say with anything, especially with politics, is this: do your homework, learn who you're putting in office, and follow what's going on, and don't get fooled by what's in front of you, because the sleight of hand situation is always going on. All of this is always going on over here. So you got to look at the picture from a 60,000-foot view, or you're going to miss everything. And Boogie, you bring up some great points about that. Like I say, with that crime bill situation, every time I ask a Republican, they always make reference to something that the Democrats did. But I said, I don't want to hear anything about what the Dems are doing. I want to hear what you see as far as your side that's causing you to support the way you support. And that leads into my next deal. Have you ever had those friends, right? You got some homies, right? Or you got some friends, you got some neighbors, you got some affiliates, maybe some people that you see every once in a while that, you maybe walk to the store. Hey, what's up? What's going on, Joe? What's up, man? What up? Blah, 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 blah. But right around election time, right around when the campaigns start and all that stuff going, all of a sudden, they don't know who you are. Have you ever had that situation? Let me tell you, I currently experience that. Like I say, me personally, I don't really care what your political affiliation is. But if we cool, we cool. We can sit down, we can talk, we can have whatever. We can agree to disagree. I have no problem with that. I should not be sitting there and or out somewhere or riding by or any of that and be like, yo, what's up, man? How you doing? And then I can barely get a wave, or sometimes not even a hello or anything at all. I'm like, wow, is this because I said something about your president or your candidate? You know, I'm just trying to keep it real, because what I put out there before, believe me, if I put it out there, I've done research on it.
Well,
It's not that I'm just speaking from the top of my head, because I don't want to share information that's false, because I don't want anybody to ever come back and say that this was false.
well, you got to look at it like this. This presidency, I would say the past two presidencies have changed the way people are.
Yes.
President Obama getting elected was, how should I put it? It exposed a lot of hate,
Who? What you talking about?
and Trump is a symptom of what the economy, well, the world has been dealing with. Think
Mhm.
about it like this: you got a so-called billionaire, and the reason, and you know why I say so-called,
Yeah.
and you had a lot of different people say, well, let's give him a chance. People were fed up with politics. People were fed up with the political arena that we're in, and they needed an outsider.
Right.
Then on top of that, you had people, because he's blunt,
Hmm.
maybe bluntly stupid sometimes, but he's blunt. He just
Right.
speaks what is on his mind. So
Right.
people feel they like that because he just says what he wants to say and can't nobody do anything about it.
Right.
But it exposed the country for who, based on who you follow, and what you say based on how you think. Like if somebody's a Republican, I can still respect you and care for you.
Right, no doubt.
But die hard, and keyword die hard, not your just because, but die hard avid Trump supporter, I can't trust you.
I understand. Totally understand it. Let me tell you, some of my greatest friends are Republicans, and we have in-depth conversations. And we say at the end of the day, I'll be like, man, I still love you. You know, hey girl, I still love you. I show no love lost for your whatever. I said, you know, we just have a difference of opinion. And then I look at it like this. I tell her, I said, with you being Republican, me being a Dems kind of more leaning towards independent, the way all this stuff is, right? I'm able to spread my horizons and learn more across the board and then really get in depth with politics and see. I'm not really a political person, but I follow so that I can make informed decisions. That's the key. Whereas to you got some that are, like you say, diehards, all this and, you know, Trump this and all whatever it may be. And then when you go and ask him, like I say, he's the best president ever. He's a businessman. Okay. And I have to tell him, and I've shut him down numerous times. And I say, he's a businessman. I said, hasn't every one of his businesses that he had, he's filed bankruptcy for? Has he not done that? Yep. I said, now when he files bankruptcy, someone else has to foot that bill. You know, that means that money's lost. You know, that's getting out of paying your bills. Just like on the just think about it. On the town hall, it came up about $400 million that came up about it, right? You know, that he was asked about that, and he was like, he couldn't give a straight answer on it, but he said that's a small portion to what my worth is, which we still don't know what his worth is because he shares not anything.
Well, his worth is only what's in his mind. It's not necessarily reality. If you think about it, yes, he does have some businesses. Most of his businesses fail.
Yes.
If you think about the buildings that his name is on, he doesn't own none of them. They're paying him for his name.
Correct.
They're using his celebrity status to put on a building because of his family history, should I say.
Correct.
Of, you know, in real estate. Yes, he's created business, but he's also had smart enough lawyers who knew how to manipulate the tax code or manipulate the system in his favor. If I'm paying you $1 million so that I can save $1 billion, is that okay? Most average lawyers are gonna take that.
Yeah.
So it's all about the money. If you got enough money to expend, you can get people to do a lot of things, especially in your favor. Indeed. I mean, look at all the people that he put all his family members in positions of power that are not qualified for those positions.
Yep.
And then what for his daughter, he made it a consultation. Who gets paid $400,000 for a consultation?
That's called keeping it in the family so that the money never moves or it shifts elsewhere. You know what I mean?
I mean, and then it comes out that he was already broke or he's in debt so much. You know, his only solution was because regardless of how we feel about him, from now on he's gonna get paid $400,000 for the rest of his life.
Right. True that.
I mean, people are saying that he's giving his money away, but shoot, we done spent about over a couple million on him golfing.
Yeah, you're right about that.
And if you give it away properly through a charity, it's a tax write-off. You get it back anyway. You got to understand the tax code. And most people that, if you're not in business and you don't understand the tax code, that's like, you know, everybody knows Bill Gates and Oprah Winfrey give away about half of their money every year.
That's a fact. And I know in terms of Bill and Melinda Foundation, that is absolutely true. I have been personally connected to that. So I know that to be a fact for sure. You know, getting back to the friend thing, you know, my big thing is this, man. If you have good relationships and you guys are cool before any politics or any of that, you should still be cool. It shouldn't be one of these things where something like this is tearing. All of a sudden you got this little thing because you guys don't agree with each other as it relates to politics. Because at the end of the day, Trump could come down the street right now. Biden could come down the street right now. And of course, they'll shake your hand. But guess what they're going to do? They're going to move past you and shake the next person's hand. right? You know, they'll try to talk to you and figure out what's what. But let's keep it real now. You are one person. If you want an effective change, you want to do something. Of course, sure you can vote for the president, but it's not going to happen at the president level. It's not going to happen at that level. It's going to happen at the local level. That's where your effective change is. You want things to work in your favor. You want things to come out, and things like, as far as all the education systems and everything that's pertaining to you, the funding, all of that stuff that's in your area, it comes at the local level first. Your governors, your all your mayors, everyone. That's where that comes in, because they are working for you locally, and then it goes up. But you can't depend on the president. That's why when I used to hear so many black people, they would say, or African Americans or people of color would say, President Obama didn't do jack for me, didn't do jack for us. Well, guess what? He had a Republican Congress, didn't he?
Well, this is my thing with that. He wasn't supposed to, because he's not the president of just us. He's the president of the United States.
Everybody.
Also, him being he did do a lot for us.
He did.
He tried to pass a lot for us.
He did.
But it was blocked as well.
Indeed.
Yes, that he did have more opportunities in the first 2 years, but he was also pushing an agenda to try to prove his worth in the first 2 years as well. You know, you got the first so-called first black president, because we all know he wasn't. So his job was to be clean enough so that somebody else can do it again.
Right.
Because if he came in and did everything for us, there would never be another black president ever in history again.
Correct. Exactly. And see, but the mindset of so many was that, oh yeah, he's gonna do this and do this, he's gonna do this at the hood and all that stuff. But guess what? The hood would be a lot better if the people themselves who live in the hood fix it up, do what they gotta do.
It's the mentality.
Not about, you can't wait for the president to do it. You live there. You need to help fix that up. You need to get with your local government and try to work on some things to make some things happen. That's where it all happens. So when President Obama, when he did what he had to do, he did what he had to do for the nation. And a lot of people were like, well, he didn't. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm sitting here listening to this again. They failed to realize over and over and over and over again that it's not about the president at that point. It's about, if you want change, if you want effective change, you got to do it at the local level.
But this is what you got to think about. The biggest thing with the presidency is about who they select.
Yes.
Prime example, President Trump has been in office for almost going at the end of his first term.
Mm-hmm.
He has not elected one black federal judge.
Yes.
We know if Biden gets in office, then we have a chance. But with him not doing that, that makes it harder for the systematic things that we're trying to change in this country.
Correct. And as it relates to, let's talk about that for a minute. The selection of no judges of color, no black judges, but we constantly see his selections and the things that he wants them to do. Now, they could say all day long that he selects judges that have minds of their own, who are going to do not conform to the things that he wants them to do. But you better believe, man, as soon as they get in there, they have the agenda. This whole Roe v. Wade situation. Oh my God. And see, for the life of me, I'm gonna be honest with you, when it comes to politics, we talk about abortion, we talk about a medical care, health care, and things of that nature. Sure, health care is important, but a woman, me personally, she has control of her body, right? So why are we wasting so much time on something like that when we have people in need who, if we spend all this money that we spend on on these hearings, if we took that money and put it in different communities to build up these communities, how much effective change that would be over this? I don't even see how.
The reason why they're not putting money in the communities because they're not getting money in their own pocket from them.
That's the key. And see, And that is the answer that I was looking for, because it all goes back, it all circle back to a dollar. When as it relates to, and this is just me, this is across the house and all government. How many years can a president serve?
8 years,
So why do we have congressmen and women who
a
are in
lifetime
there
position.
for a lifetime?
But think about it like this: it's the mindset of our people. It's the mindset of people. Period. The difference between all of those centers is they can easily be voted out, but we refuse to put people in position to run against them. They have built up their past financial standings to be able to keep themselves in office. An average person like me and you can't. It makes it hard.
Mhm.
That's why I like a lot of people hate AOC, but I salute what she did. I mean, the chick was a waitress,
Mm-hmm.
and they like, oh well, she's this and she's that. I'm like, but she came from being broke. So a person that comes from being broke versus a person that comes from money
They
thinks
know
differently when they get there.
they know the
Yes,
struggle.
I agree she has a lot to learn, but on top of that, she also is in a position to make change because she can relate to us. A
Right.
person that's been born into money or a person that's had money all their life can't relate to the average person. So how can they make decisions for people if they've never been in our shoes?
That's exactly it. Experience is golden, which leads us to the next point. Okay, I understand that we wanted someone who would be in office, that a shaker, someone that's not in politics, someone who has never had any experience or whatever. But we see the result of that now. And then you get these ones going back to the terms. You get these ones who are in here who they don't agree. They don't, behind closed doors, they don't agree. But they'd rather tear the country down and run with this cat than to let people truly know, look, this is not what I want. This is not what it is. But you better believe damn sure that as they get closer to their times of running, right? What happens? They're going to be like, oh, I didn't agree with this and I didn't want this or whatever it may be. I just don't feel this whole thing about.
But this is my thing though. Look at the people that's running against them. You got people that align their views with them that are running against them,
Mhm.
but they have less money than them or less political power. So we keep the same people in office.
Pretty much.
We're in a society now where we need to make a change on the way we think. We need to start educating ourselves more. There's more to society than like in all reality, we really don't need a political party. We need to get rid of the two-party system. We actually need to get rid of all of the parties,
You
or
know,
we need to create our own. Because the biggest problem that I see with minorities is I hear the common thing, oh well, we used to be Republican or we this, but they don't understand the history behind it.
mhm.
But we also gotta. I try to tell people everything has an era. This
Yes.
is a different era. The way people think is different. The society that we live in is differently. So
And see, I had said this once before. I said the United States, um if you've never been, if like me, thank God I was blessed to be able to go to the military. I was in the US Navy, spent 10 years in the Navy. And I had an opportunity to travel to 14 different countries. And in those 14 different countries, traveling around, learning the culture, seeing what I saw, and doing the different things that we did, it really opened my eyes up to the fact that we have one of the best freedoms in the world. This country has the best freedom in the world compared to other countries. But we we continually treat this treat this country. I'm trying to figure out the best way to say this. Instead of us being thankful for what we got and taking care of the country and doing the right thing with the country, we shun it, we destroy it, we destroy the democracy, we destroy the togetherness, we destroy the fellowship, we destroy all of that, all in the name of the color of skin, religion, money, which is a biggie, political views, all of these different things. And I always said, you know what? I feel I'm about like you. You know what? Instead of putting a president in office right away, let's date the president. let the country date the president. Let's really find out. It's kind of like, when you meet a new man or a new woman, right? You try to get to know him. You date him a little bit. And if you find something you don't like, you jet. Is that not true? If we use that concept in terms of when it comes to these political offices, I think we'd be better off. Really learn about those individuals, see what they got and see where they are. Because let me tell you, I have been approached by tons of politicians. They go, "How you doing, brother Tim Wilson, or Mr. Tim Wilson, or Mr. Wilson? I heard that I should talk to you and see if see what I can, and so that you can learn more about me and I can learn more about you and maybe get your vote." And I say, "Okay, well, we can have a conversation, no problem." And they go, "Well, what I like to do is," I say, "No," I say, "No, no, 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 no. See, you're gonna come to me with this cookie cutter BS. I want you to tell me who you are, where you came from, and what you're truly about. And tell me about how your mom grew up. Tell me how your pops, and if your mom and pops was in the same house, what struggles did you have? I want to know about all of that first. Then after that, I got a couple questions to ask you. For example, if I come to you and I tell you, hey, I got $10,000 right here, and I need you. All you got to do when you get up here is I want you to just say square knot. I want you to say square knot in front of the world for this $10,000. What are you going to do? Because if you tell me that you're going to do it, then I know at $10,000 you're going to do that. I know for sure somebody say $1,000,000. Here it is. We want guns. We want to do this, blah, 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 blah. You're going to do it.
I mean, but you got to understand our economy is based on money, but it's not just it's just not United States. It's actually the world. If you look at history, I think the things that you notated in your statement is human nature. The problem with the United States is we're more free to be able to do things.
True.
And where in other countries they locked it down because of the past. So, the biggest problem is that we're electing people based on what they say and not their actual true values.
Yes. So like these politicians that are approached me, and there was a couple of them that got elected and into the local government as mayors, aldermen, city councilmen, so on and so forth. And let me tell you, within the first 5-6 months after they were in there, because they had accepted, it came to light that they accepted donations from lobbyists to keep certain things in the local communities that were detrimental to people of color. That they soon learned that everyone was doing everything in their power to make it really rough for them. And instead of just being true and riding on what you said, oh, I'm not, because one of the questions I was like, if someone comes to you and offers you something, are you going to take that? Are you going to stand on what you say? Are you going to stand on what you say and work for the people? If you work for the people will stand behind you and you'll have more. That's more benefit. And they'll be like, oh, yeah, and this and that. Just tell everyone. And I want to vote, and I want your vote, and I want their vote. And we're going to do this together. And then the result is this over here. I'm sick of that.
I mean, but that's why I have a problem with both sides, Democrats and Republicans.
Yes. And so
but
you should.
I lean towards Democrat based on what they do now, not what they were in the past.
Correct.
Because what they were in the past, yes, by definition, we're technically Republicans.
Yes.
But we're in a different era. We're in a different society. And the views of them are jacked up. Like, for an example, everybody's talking about the situation with Ice Cube.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Now, if you watch the Roland Martin interview, that's a very smart guy. I follow him
Roland
because
Martin.
He does his research.
Yes.
And in his research, he broke down that everything that he was asking for and more was already being put on the table, but certain people in Congress have been blocking him and stopping it and not allowing it to come to a vote. That's the problem, not the president. That person is the problem. It's the people that don't, our whole issue in our society is the majority of the people that's been in Congress forever. It's not necessarily the president.
Yes. And that goes back to my term limits. If the president can only serve 8 years, no office should be able to serve more. That's just my personal opinion. And that way, if every 8 years max, you get in there and you serve your 8 years, you know that someone fresh is going to come in there. And of course, it's up to the people to pick the right people to put in there. But at least some fresh ideas, something new would always be coming in there and changing, for the benefit of the thoughts of the current day. Because
But
what happens is you got a lot of these older heads, they don't care about a lot of that stuff in the current day. You gotta think about that.
but this is the thing. The reason why we can't do that is because we will run out of people.
Hey, that's
No-
all right though.
And,
I'd rather take that sacrifice and then
so
move to something and
the
then see
term
what
limit for
happens.
president is because it's a position of power that you'll never run out of people for. Now, when
True
it
that.
comes to Congress, the problem is we're not voting. That's the
Well,
biggest issue.
I think
Because at
that
the
was
end of the day, if
important.
somebody's not doing with their part, we can always vote them out. And that's only after 2 years.
Yeah, that's true. Only after 2 years. But the other piece of that is you mentioned something before, and that is these people who are in there have managed to gain lots of backing and funding and things of that nature that the normal Joe Schmo like myself, if I wanted to run for office, and of course I could get some support or whatever, but I would not have the support like this individual would have. Number
No,
one,
no, not necessarily. The thing
okay,
about it is you have to be willing to do what other people aren't willing to do. And that's why I use the prime example of AOC. She did what other people would not do.
I'm,
She didn't have the money or the political power to knock out somebody that's been in office for over 20 years.
she
She
did
got she went
hit the boots. She did the boot route.
boots to the ground.
Yep, I know she did the
And if
boots to
and
the
if
ground.
and if somebody is really hungry enough to take that position, they can do the same thing.
True that.
But the
I
problem is nobody's willing to do that.
I understand. Yep, and I agree with you on that. And for example, if I run, but see, if I run, it's a different story. Whew, I know people would be so upset with me, but and you make some valid points. A lot of people aren't willing to put that there. They just want it, and that's that. But there are always going to be those who are in positions of power who are going to try to do whatever they can to stop it. But if they know that that term limit is there, I think that would assist in just making sure that they get the frame of mind that, man, you know what? Either I'm more going to work for the people, and I know I come out in 8 years, but have a stipulation in there that says, okay, you come out in 8 years, but you can run on the next term. But it just gets you out of there so that you see that if if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, you go ahead and do you get in, and it's every 2 years, like you say, but people that are with you are going to constantly put you in there. Just like the whole situation we got with the followers, Trump followers, right? They're gonna, because let me tell you, me personally, this is just me saying it again. It's gonna be a really, really close race because all of a sudden people will come out the woodworks. Biden's ahead right now, but people are going to come out the woodworks from everywhere all of a sudden and do kind of the same deal that happened in 2016, right? But if these individuals that are in office know that you get your fourth term and you have to go, maybe that'll put something in their mind. Because I know if someone says to me, okay, Tim, here's the deal, you're in office. Your first 2 years, you did really good. Then the second 2 years, you kind of screwed up, but it was just enough to get you by. Your third years, okay, you did this or whatever, and you're sitting there and you're starting to think, man, either I can get this and get people on my side and do what I got to do, even though I know that I'm going to be leaving, so that later I can come back again and run again. You know what I'm saying? Yes, let me put the best way, I guess, to put it is, don't burn bridges. There are a lot of these people in office that have been there for years. They've already burned those bridges, but they still have their constituents who will block any and everything. And that's why you have all this rezoning, all this stuff. They're able to put that in place so that they can stay in office, man. There's so many different little pieces to this whole political game. It's just crazy to me. And
Yep.
I don't claim to know everything. And I've read several things, and some of the stuff that you read, you can't even believe that. You know what I mean? So where do you go without talking to the individuals themselves? Where do you go? I just, overall, getting back to the friends and the politics. Don't let friendships be broken up because of your political views, your political affiliations.
That goes back to what I said earlier. My friendship is not based on your political views, it's who you follow.
So who you follow, you know?
Like I said earlier, like I got a associate. I can't say he's a friend, but an associate I went to school with.
Mm-hmm.
He's a diehard Republican
Mm-hmm.
and he's following Trump.
Mm-hmm.
But the big difference is me as an individual, I can't never call you a friend because now I can't trust you
I have a different
based
view
on
about
your
that.
views and the way you think.
I have a different view about that. Because I look at it like this. Like I say, you got some diehard Trump. I know some diehard Trump supporters who are we cool other than that. I mean, we can barbecue together, we can have fun together, we can do whatever. But when it comes to politics, I'd be like, look, man, no, we having such a great time. Let's not even talk politics, man.
But
Let's not
but
even do that to ourselves, son.
that's because some people on the other side brings out the anger in people that shouldn't be there.
Sure, I understand what you're saying there,
I
but
can have a difference of opinion and still be your friend.
right, that's the agree. Like I said at the beginning of it, we can agree to disagree. We should be able to do that. But you got some who can't handle that. It's like what did my man say? You can't handle the truth. You know, some people just feel their certain way, and that's the way it's gonna be. You know, instead of it being one of those things where they they are like it's my way or the highway kind of deal. I'm like, yo, you sound like this cat in the office. You
But
sound like
but at the end of the day, Square Not, you can't really say that that's a friend if he go that separate way. At the end of the day, when he going with his people, it's got to be what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, you can't be you got to be one way. Either you with me or you're not.
well, see, I look at it like this though, man. You can have some of your best times with some of these people, right? Who you've known forever or who you've gotten to know very well, and you guys become really close. Literally, man. I mean, you guys are sharing food. You guys are sharing, hey, you'll go stay at their houses, they stay at your house. We can do events together, all kinds of different things. The only thing that may bring up some type of separation or whatever is when you start talking about politics. So I tell them like, look, man, check it out. Don't talk politics. Otherwise, and then when they get going, I'd be like, look, man, I'm just messing with you because I don't care what you think about you. What your political affiliation means nothing to me. Because at the end of the day, at the ballot box, guess what you're gonna do? You're gonna vote for who you're gonna vote for. And I'm gonna vote for who I'm gonna vote for. So
But
after the election, we'll see who gets in. Period.
it depends on how strong minded of a person you're dealing with. Prime example. I'm going to use this as an example, and I think it can be a great example in this situation. You can have people that like different colors, but they don't hate each other. But then you also got to remember it's all about who cares the most. For example, think about the guy that infiltrated the KKK,
Mm-hmm.
the black guy.
Yeah, the black guy.
He became friends with one of the
Leaders.
he went when they first met. They hated each other based off something that was stupid.
Mm-hmm.
One hated because of the way they thought. The other hated because of his skin complexion.
Mm-hmm.
Years later, they become the best of friends to the point where now you got a man that you grew up hating based on his skin complexion that you made the godfather of your kids.
Mm-hmm.
Love conquers all hate.
True
You
that.
know, but it all depends on your deep core values. See, I can still respect somebody based on your deep core values versus on the way you think or your opinions on something.
And I agree with that 100%. And I think that's where I'm trying to explain it. So I appreciate you articulating that in a form that represents what I meant by what you said.
But
Go ahead.
can you put your life in that man's hand at any day?
It depends
Yeah.
on their core. It depends on their core value. If their core
I understand the core value, but what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, do you really trust this guy that much?
The ones that I know of, yes.
think about it like this: when us as veterans, when we go to war, do we care about what somebody's political affiliation is?
Nah, man.
Our life is in their hands at that time.
That's true. And you know what? What we think about when we go to war, one word, two words, the mission. You know what I'm saying? So that's just how it is. And that's what gets us through all the years of service that we do, whether it's 1 year or 40 years, and keeps us alive, if we can be. God rest his soul and rest in peace to those who have lost their lives during the wars and other activities. So I don't want to discredit that at all. It's just a matter of we put our trust in each other's hands as we're there as military. We can't look at, even though racism is definitely in the military, it's out there. Because I'm gonna tell you like this: I was a sonar tech, and I'll give you an example of this. And I haven't shared this with too many people, but I'll share this with you. I was a sonar tech. I chose because when I took the ASVAB, I used to take the ASVAB. I'm gonna be honest with you. I can say this now as well. I went to automotive high school in Brooklyn, New York. Me and my brother and friends, we all did it. But we used to actually take the ASVAB because the ASVAB gave us 4 hours out of class. Legitimately, it gave us 4 hours to chill out of class. So we was like, yo, we're going to take the ASVAB. So we take the ASVAB, and then the ASVAB was coming back. We was hitting 90s, 95. I took the ASVAB 4 times just so that I can get out of class. And the lowest score that I had was a 92. The highest score that I had was a 99. So I was like, okay. They told me I could pick whatever. They said you could pick whatever job you want. Because initially I was going to the Marine Corps. So when I solicited the Marine Corps, I engaged them, and what I wanted was advanced electronics. Well, they told me, they said, well, the advanced electronics billet is open, but we have the infantry billet that's wide open. And I said, I don't want to go to infantry. I want to do advanced electronics. They said, well, you'd have to wait about 18 months for that billet to open, these billets to start opening up again. I said, I'm not doing that. Well, guess what? Right next to the Marines was the Navy. And the Navy guy heard that. Chief Petty Officer. He came, he said, hey, man, no, I'm sorry, first class gunner's mate. And he said, hey, come talk to me. He said, I know. He said, why do you want to go to the Marine Corps? And at that time, I remember this guy. This guy came through. His name was Captain Hubbard. He came in his greens. He was a Marine. He looked just like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Almost, I thought it was Arnold Schwarzenegger that walked in there because he looked just like him. In his greens, looking solid, man. I mean, he was like, yo, I was like, that's what I want right there. And he said, look, we don't have all them pretty uniforms and all that stuff and everything, but we have the schooling, and we have the best schools in the military because all 4 branches go to our schools. So I was like, okay, tell me more. Cause I'm more into the education side than anything. So he said, I heard that you want to, get in advanced electronics, and I had an opportunity to pull your scores up in the computer. And he said, you did really, really good. He said, do you mind taking another test? And I said, sure, I'll take a test. So he gave me what they call the nuke test. The nuclear test is a whole different beast. It's a beast of engineering and things of that nature. And if you take this test and you pass this test, you can get into what they call the nuclear program at that time in the Navy. And it paid a lot more. It had bigger bonuses, and you could literally be a first class in 4 years. That's just how fast they were moving up. So I was like, okay, I'll take it. The cutoff score was 55. I scored a 54, and I was like, okay, well, I didn't make that cut. He said, but no, man, you was so doggone close. We might be able to get your waiver. I said, well, I'll talk about that later. I said, but tell me what else you got, because I really want the advanced electronics. And he said, well, you can go in as an ET, which is an electronics technician. You could go in as RM, which is a radio man. And he started name off. Then he said ST, sonar tech. And I said, what's sonar tech? And he told me sound and navigation and ranging. That's what sonar means. So he says, you'll learn that about, training your ears for sound. Plus also you'll go through the advanced electronics pipeline. I said, that's what I want. So I selected that, went through the Navy, did all that. And I was like, okay, this is a beautiful, beautiful thing. I did my 10 years in the Navy, and just everything went really, really well. With the military has afforded me so many great opportunities. So now here I am, I'm in the middle of the Gulf. I'm in the middle of all these different places. Your thought process. So when we go through all these different things, sending you to all these different schools. When I was in there, one of the first things that they told me in terms of racism, listen to this. I'm gonna get back to this, and I'm gonna get back to that last point. When I joined and Sonar Tech, right, racism was there, but it was underlying. It wasn't out in the front. So check this out. I got to my first shift. I came in there. I was already in E4. I came out of. I did boot camp. I was the senior, this prime seaman recruit, and they advanced me to E4 after A school. When I got to my first shift, I had a first class come up to me and he said, "Hey Wilson, how you doing?" I said, "How you doing? Good to finally meet you." And so he says, "Man, let me tell you, man." He says, "I read your stuff for boot camp. You were the star recruit for your company, and you scored very high on all your schools and everything. So that's really cool." He says, "And I got one other thing to say, man." I said, "I don't know how you." He said, "I don't know how you're gonna take it, but I just want to say." And he said, "You must be really, really smart." And I said, "What?" I said, "What do you mean by that?" And this is exactly what he said. He said, "You must be really smart because there are only a handful of black people in this rate." And at the time that I was in when I first got in that rate, there was only 5 of us on the entire base of over 2,300 people. 5.
Mhm.
5
Wow.
of us. And he said, "You must be really, really smart." And I can't, then that kind of, I was like, so what is he trying to say? Black people can't be smart? And it just really was like, wow. But over time, after talking to him, we became some of the best friends. We became some of the best friends. And of course, some of our views were different, but we became some of the best friends. And his name was Jim, me and Jim. I'm Tim, he's Jim. And it just worked out for us. But all these different things in the military, racism, like I said, disagreements or whatever. But when it came down to time for our getting things done, we worked together regardless. So there was none of this other stuff. But this stuff that
But
we
see,
got
but see,
going
that's
on,
but when it comes to relationship to politics, that's the one thing, because us as a race, our mindset isn't there yet.
yes,
We need to start thinking differently, not just about politics, but about everything in life. We too busy trying to outdo one another versus working together.
yes. We
I
have
mean, think about it like this. When you go into a black establishment, I hear everybody complaining about what's not there or how you were treated or this and that. But when you go into other people's establishment, you get the same thing, but they don't say nothing. And you never hear anything from their race. It's only us that complain about everything.
Yes, 100%. And I'm glad that you bring that up. And hey, SP, there's several people here in the chat. I meant to make sure I mention that. Raydell Battles, he sends a salute. Denise Tate says you are 100% on point about our people don't understand that we have to educate ourselves, which ties into what you just said, Boogie. Lou Diamonds was in here. He's just saying salute. And then, of course, a lot of people in agreement with the SP. You definitely right about that. You for sure on that. But you bring up a good point, and actually, that topic is set for next week. I have a panel of people coming on, and you know what the topic is? Why do we hate ourselves? And the reason I'm bringing that topic up is because of just what you said. We would rather not work together and be in competition with one another and do everything wrong to our own, and then instead of coming together, working together just like everyone else does. And it's not a bad thing. I don't want to make it seem like there's a racial divide or anything, but the fact remains is for example, if I don't respect myself, who's going to respect me? Once people see that I respect myself and I respect my family and I do whatever, then they're going to fall in accordance with that. They're not going to be like, "Oh, we don't care about blah 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 blah," even though I'm just one small unit. But you start having everybody be like, "Yo, they showing some love, they doing this." Black Wall Street was a prime example of that, of how the power, and once everyone worked together, what you could have. And it got to the point where it was so intimidating that the KKK, which I'm going to bring them back up here in just a sec, because I get asked this question a
But
lot.
it wasn't just the
It wasn't
KKK.
just them. It wasn't just them. You're right. It wasn't just them. But anyway, in terms of they were part of the destruction along with several others who disagreed about the way it was done, because there was their own unit, own economy, own everything there. And then instead of them allowing that to continue to grow and to be what it was, they decided to kill over 3,200 people that day over a course of a week. So it just really blows my mind that people don't sit and say, you know what, we can do that again, because we can do it again. And if we get to that scale, there's no reason why people won't understand and see, you know what, we have to start respecting them and starting bringing them to the table because they have something valuable. Every time I turn on, you got some little 12-year-old African American or black or however you want to say it, that's in college. A 12-year-old. I posted it on my page. I'm always watching out for stuff like that. Young black guy, young black female who has the intelligence and who has the smarts of some of the greatest engineers in the world and are going to college at such a young age because they've surpassed everyone. And we can't respect that. They go, oh, they don't know anything, blah, blah, blah. Bullshit. I'm just going to put it to your front. A lot of the stuff that's invented. Think about all the inventions that have come from.
Well, you heard about the recent thing, right? I heard it. I think it was either today, this morning, or last night on the news. I think it was on the Breakfast Club where I heard it. I don't remember where I heard it. It had to have been today though. A 14-year-old possibly has created or might be on the cusp of creating the cure for the coronavirus.
Yes.
And another young kid, I think there were 17, 18, created who's also EMT, created a mobile testing center that gives you a result in 15 minutes. Both of them are black. I think I heard it on the Breakfast Club this morning.
And you know what? I can believe it. Come to fruition. But you know what? Somebody would try to step in and try to take it over. And see, that's where we
need to come
together and get behind this kid instead of letting someone else come in and try to offer their family millions of dollars and say, oh, we'll give you millions of dollars, blah, 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 if you take this, and shut up about it. I was learning, it's so many different things out there like that's happening every day that we don't know about. Think about that. I'm glad that the Breakfast Club or whoever it was, they brought that to light. But there's a lot of stuff out there like that that doesn't make it to the light. And they don't want it. These people don't want to make it to the light. And that's sad because I made a post one time. I said, you know what? I'm tired of being called black. I'm tired of being called African American. Because when you go overseas, again, Boogie, you know about this. When you go overseas and you go to a different country, I've been to so many, but let's say I went to Bahrain. And they go, what are you or whatever? I'm Bahrainian. Or you go to Italy, they say I'm Italian. You go to Aarhus, Denmark, and they say I'm Danish. And then they say, who are you? And you go, I'm black. And they go, actually, white.
But what's funny about that is in the United States, we may say we're black or white.
Yeah.
But if you really think about it, when we go to other countries and somebody says, what are you? You say I'm American.
And I was getting ready to say that too. Also, they'll say, well, you guys are American. And then I had, we were in Belgium, Antwerp, Belgium. We were in Antwerp, Belgium. And we were sitting there and it goes, the couple of girls came up and they said, are you guys American? I said, we said, yes. And then she asked the question, her lad, as she called him, said, why do you guys call you guys black and white? Why do you guys do that? And she said, that's so funny to us because we never know that a color has that much power like it does in America. And how do you answer that?
Yeah.
That was like a gut punch. Because everywhere else we are considered Americans, but when we are home, we never even look at ourselves as American. I'm black, you're white. I'm Mexican, you're Chinese. Never American. So it makes absolutely no sense to me why we do that. I like I said, I'm American.
I think it really just goes back to, unfortunately, the history of our country.
Yes.
And if we just migrated here and lived in a society and built it together like they did in most, I can't even really say like they did, but for the most part, it did happen in most countries. If we would have just migrated and just grew and built it together versus trying to be competition or try to control one another in this country,
Mm-hmm.
then it probably would be that way.
Fact.
But also on the same token, racism is deep rooted in every country. Look what's going on in Brazil. You got light skinned Brazils versus dark skinned Brazils,
Yes.
and every country goes through it in their own way, just like we do in the United States. We just call it differently.
But you know what though? How long has that been going on in Brazil? Because
A
I don't
long
recall.
time.
I know I don't that's new to me because I know that recently I've been hearing about some stuff like that, but I can't recall like way back when.
I don't remember when I saw some special on it. That's how I knew it. The special I saw about it was some years ago.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, it could be within the past 30 to 40 years, but it's not as old as what we've been dealing with in this country. I
'Cause
think a
because-
lot of it has, just like the bleaching of our skin.
Mhm.
But that's kind of what become the new thing. It's all about the look and skin complexion.
Yeah. And I said something once before. I said, be happy in your skin. This is what God gave you. This is what it is. I've also mentioned numerous times. I know we kind of veered off of politics for a second, but I've also said this once before. People that are that come out here racists, that come out and say that they are God-fearing Christians, and in the same breath will call you the N-word, any other racial slurs or whatever it may be, right? And say that they're God-fearing Christians. And I always ask the question: if you're a God-fearing Christian and I'm a Christian, am I not your brother? Am I not your brother? Is she not your sister? I said, because God made us all. So what is the deal? And they can't say anything.
But it's funny though. Everything we say relates back to politics because the reason why politics is the way it is based on the history of our country.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at the Constitution. Look at the original Constitution and the way it was written. It wasn't written for us because people had a view. People wanted slaves. People wanted certain things, and they made sure it was written in black and white. That's why we have so many daggone amendments to amend the original Constitution. I mean, if you really think about it, and
Yep.
that's what's created our politics today. Our politics today is based on now. I would say our politics in the country that we're living today is based on the views of different people, but it's not based on a specific agenda.
That you're 100% right on that, man. Absolutely. So as it relates, and one of the things that I want to say, stepping back over and you're right, circling back around to politics, is that the insecurities with political views, friendships being destroyed over or temporarily put on hold for political views. I always ask the big question, why? Because you don't have to do that. And again, I don't get a straight answer. I just don't. I wish I had some
Well,
Republicans
I think
or
it depends on where a person is in their life. Like for me, I do not like. I can only take but so much negative energy in my life.
I'm
Um,
already like that for sure.
and recently, I had just for an example, I had somebody I went to school with on Facebook. We got into a heated political discussion based on and a lot of it for me, I noticed for me as an individual is based on your core values. Yes, you can follow somebody who you want, but if you believe what they believe based on your lack of education, I do not trust you. I have a certain view against you now. And then, and this was a white person. So then the next comment out of your mouth is something slightly racist. And then I come out my mouth sideways because I had to remind that person, I'm back in Hampton now. We're in the same city. I'll meet you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was deleted. And then all of a sudden they want to send me, I do have a screenshot of it. So I would love, I'm going to send it to you so you can read it, of their apology. And then they wanted to add me back as a friend, which I have still yet to this day decided to accept because I don't know if I can deal with the constant daily negative energy
Right.
coming across my Facebook page.
Right. Yeah, I have a couple guys that we all lived together when I was in base housing. Again, like I say, when I see them, they never make reference. I can ask them, what has he done? What has Trump done? What is this and that? And he'll always go, well, President. I'd be like, I didn't ask you that. I have to always check them in that format because they always come back, and I'm like, look, man, you're gonna believe what you're gonna believe. and it's going to be what it is. There's nothing, absolutely nothing that I can do to change your mind, nor do I want to change your mind. I want you to have your own political views. I want you to do whatever it is that makes you happy. But don't post stuff on my page that you feel is going to be the end all say all as it relates to the words, because it's not. That's just not how it's going to be. I'm going to say something back, so you can't tell me this is it and this is law. I said, you're going off of everything that someone else is saying, and you're not getting your information. You're not doing your homework. So all I ask is that, number one, do your homework. Don't hold grudges over something that you think. It's okay to think that you are, whatever your thoughts are, it's good to have. But if you destroy relationships over that, that's on you. And like Boogie said, don't expect, once you unfriend, because if you unfriend me, I'm like, hey, I'm good. I'm good. I don't go looking for you again. That's just my thoughts. I just don't go looking for you again. I'll say, okay, cool beans. That means that I got up under your skin to the point where you had to do that, and it's a wrap. So I'm cool. I hold no grudge, but evidently you couldn't handle the truth kind of situation is how I look at it. So it is what it is. The other thing I want people to understand is that, of course, this here is not designed, this chat today is not designed to help you sway your vote or anything like that. That's not it. But when I saw those signs yesterday, I was like, wow. I just could not believe that here I am driving down Bragg Boulevard in Fayetteville, and I see all these Trump signs standing up nice and clean and beautiful. And then right after that, you see the Biden Harris signs. They're all smashed up, beaten up, vandalized, whatever. And I'm like, why do people actually do that? They didn't have to do that. All they could have said is, hey, I disagree, but hey, they have every right to have their signs up as well as someone else. I got that. I'll definitely take a look at that, Boogie. But I'm like, it just floors me what people.
We we got to get back to having common courtesy for one another in
Yes,
this society.
indeed.
We got to get back to having respect for one another in our society. That's the problem. We've gotten to the point in society where we lost just having respect for the common person. And I don't know if it's just the generations or kids raising kids. I mean, look at the respect for elderly. People just don't have respect for other people no more. And we do things in society now based on the likes that we get on Facebook, or, people do things based on the opinions of the people that they hang around. We've heard this saying in business: you're a sum total of the five people you hang around most. And if you're hanging around people that aren't doing right things, that are disrespectful, is going to keep getting passed on through generations. And I think we're just in a society now where, that's where people are. And unfortunately, a lot of those people just happen to, and this is just my personal opinion. It's not a bash towards anybody. Majority of the people that seem to be disrespectful towards one another are followers of Trump, and
Yes,
not Republicans, diehard followers of Trump.
I agree. I will agree with that. And that's because of what he has promoted. Again, the violence, all the different things that are out there, and I will never ever forget, ever ever forget that he said something that he cannot take back, and that is when he was questioned about white supremacy, and he said, "Stand back and stand by." Stand back and stand by. That's what he told the white supremacy groups. He said it on live TV in front of three. You're muted. In front of millions, set like
And
what 30
in a
something.
matter of
7
minutes, they
million?
put it on a shirt. In a matter of minutes, they put it on a shirt, and it became a logo
Oh, I can
right
imagine.
after he said it.
Stand back and stand by. Wow. I wish I had him on here right now, but he probably wouldn't answer that question. He would probably talk all around it because that's what he does. Explain that to me, and I would hold him to the coals about it too. I want to know what that means. stand back and stand by. Because basically you're telling me, hey, you have a militia ready to go to take me out. So I'm like, wow. So, and I say,
That's why I said you cannot trust them. None of them rude boys.
if there are any people of color who still support after him saying that, you may have a little bit of a problem. I can't change your political affiliation, but it's definitely something you may want to think about. And if you think that that's something else, I would love for you to explain what you thought he meant by that, because that would be amazing to see. And you can make that comment on my podcast. If you follow the links, you'll be able to make that on the make those comments and reviews on the podcast. But I was just super blown away. I read that Boogie. Yeah, I see what you're talking about there. So I don't know what else to say. We live in a world where when President Obama was elected, the same people who are getting upset about us talking about Trump, or people talking about Trump, period, are the same ones who was calling President Obama every name under the sun, saying that he was the worst president ever. He was this, he was that, when actually he was probably one of the best. He brought the country together as much as he could, even though there was still definitely a division there, but he tried his best to work with everybody, and he did things to help everyone. Just like the ACA, for example. Everyone was talking about the Affordable Care Act and talking about it was such a bad thing. But most of the people, a lot of Trump supporters, were able to get health care because of the ACA. That's another thing that they got to think about. And it's just one of those things that Trump had come in office with the intentions of making sure that he erased everything that had Obama's name attached to it. He wanted to erase it. Now, if that in itself is not showing you that he didn't want President Obama's legacy to hang around and be part of it, the history, you got to be crazy. That's all I'm saying. Now, people are voting now. So please get out there and vote. If you haven't registered to vote, there are certain places where you can still register to vote, but get out there, vote, make your vote count. Do your research on the people that you're voting for. Really learn and have an open mind about stuff instead of being really closed-minded, because when you're closed-minded, you don't receive anything. You don't know anything. And also, don't be a follower, because it's just like, for example, I always say this, kids aren't born racist. If you put black kids, white kids, Chinese, whatever national, Mexican kids, whatever, guess what they're going to do? They're all going to play together because they just see people. They don't see color. They see people. They see little people just like them running around. All of y'all want to have a good time. It's only when the parents and other influences teach them that the color of the skin of this individual is bad. Stop teaching your kids that way. Come together as Americans and everything will be just fine. I can't say anything else about that. But just know, kids are not born racist. And that goes back to the fact of at that point, you have just become a follower as a racist, not a leader, a follower. Because if I ask you, why do you hate me? And you say, because the color of my skin, or like they used to say back in the day, I had somebody tell me, you guys take our women. What? I had to laugh at that when I heard that. And I said, man, that is the funniest thing I've ever heard. I said, you can't control love. I said, if there's a couple and they just happen to be interracial and they connect, they connect. And that goes on both sides. White men who have black women, men or women of other races, and vice versa. It's just the way it is. You can't control that. But guess what? You can't sit there and count that as your reason to hate me. That means you're not doing your job. So you got to keep that in mind. You're not making yourself attractive to the opposite sex or whoever you're interested in. That's not me. So don't blame that on me. But I will say it again. Children are not born racist. So if you are a racist, you are a follower. And the reason you are a follower, because someone had to teach you that. And you decided, instead of stepping out and saying, you know what, I'm going to break that cycle because this man or this woman has done absolutely nothing to me, I can't go by what I was told. I have to leave that alone. And for the life of me, God rest her soul again, my mom, Mabel Wilson, she told me, she says, you do not ever judge a person by the color of their skin. You judge them by the way they treat you, period. If they treat you good and you guys get along and you guys are able to work together and do whatever, you guys are okay. But if you got people that are thinking of other stuff and it's bad and it's a totally adverse situation, you separate yourself from the situation, period. Politics is a dirty game. And if you allow it to take control of you and you allow it to get in your mind and become the primary drive in your mindset, you will always have a problem. So think about what you do. Think about who you're looking at as your candidate and do the right thing, not only for yourself, but for the country as a whole. Because if you look at it from the 60,000 foot view, you'll be much better off. Trust me on that. You guys got any closing comments on that?
No, I don't have much. I'm still kind of working.
Gotcha.
All I can say is that was really great, guys. That was really great, man.
All right.
My only closing comment to the people that are listening is just vote, vote, vote. I don't care who you vote for. Just make sure you vote. You go do your obligation and make sure you vote for somebody that has your views and not based on what somebody says. Do your research.
That is 100% correct. 100% correct. Somebody actually removed the stream already. But anyway, I just want to say thank you guys to the panel for coming in. I hope this has been somewhat educational. And I look forward to your comments and your views. You know, I am one who respects everyone's views and opinions. I am very open to it. I don't get upset about it because at the end of the day, I just believe that we should all work together. We are all Americans, and we have to get out of this notion of racism, and we have to get out of this notion of trying to be better, one better than the other. And as far as people of color, Black people, get it together as it relates to respecting one another, loving one another, and stop killing one another, each other. That's the biggie there. And that's where we're going to talk about that on our next show. And that topic is going to be, why do we hate ourselves? So look for that next week here on Square Not Live. With that note, I will just say that you guys have a great day. Enjoy yourselves. You know, we'll take it out from there. So if there's nothing left to say, I will just say, take care. See you next week. Make sure that you stay masked up. Make sure that you follow all the protocols for social distancing. And definitely remember, it's not only you who can contract this virus. You may be asymptomatic, but you can surely take it back to someone else. So try to do the basic things to protect yourself so that you can protect everyone else that you come in contact with and around you. Plain and simple. Take care.